Fourier is this French guy, and I'm not going to go into the math right now. It involves integrals. The crazy thing about Fourier transforms, and I say it looks like Fourier, but it's Fourier. And I'm going to talk specifically about the Fourier transform. And probably the most familiar way that you see it is when you compare, for example, the time and position of your eardrum, like an audio file, versus the power and frequency of the pitches you hear. Because that's what our ears do. Our ears take a position of our eardrum, going back and forth, wham, 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 and it turns it into distinct notes.
So you can use that wave basically on the left to have a decent and really strong predictive component of what that note's going to be, right? Or vice versa?
It's not even predictive. These are the same information in two different ways.
Okay. Oh, cool. Gotcha. Not even predictive, so just...
One is an audio file or air vibrations, right?
Yeah.
The other one is the equalizer display.
Ah, just like
when you watch the levels.
Yeah.
The reason that it's a good intuitive way to look at sound is because that's kind of what our ears do. That our cochlea, the ears, the weird wacky organ in our ear. If you unwrap it, it's this cone. And what the cochlea does is it takes waves and it makes them bounce at a particular place. And where they bounce is determined by their frequency. Now I'm drawing this backwards. The low frequency ones interact at the big part, and the high frequency ones interact at the tiny part. And the little teeny hairs that we have along that organ get tickled particularly by the particular frequency. Our cochlea is a physical Fourier transform between the vibrations from our ears and the particular hairs that respond to particular pitches.
Very cool.
And that's one of the reasons, I think I'm spelling that right. I may have spelled, that might be the hole that a bird uses for all of its, anyway, that thing, that special organ in our ear does this transformation. And the crazy thing mathematically is that if you take the equalizer and do the exact same method, you'll get the waveform back.
That's awesome.
So the two things are identical information, just in different ways.
Yeah, that's really cool.
So the really familiar way that people have seen is going between an audio file and the equalizer. But we also have the cones in our eyes that turn energy levels into colors. The exact same thing.
Very cool.
And like I said, this is one of the reasons that we like Fourier analysis. It doesn't. Lenses are similar. Lenses take angular information and turn it into a picture. And I just completely misspelled that.
Happens. Multitasking.
Yeah, lenses are another physical type of Fourier transform. It takes angular info and turns it into shapes, into pictures.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And likewise, just like a lens has two directions, you can take an image and use a lens to turn it back into angular info.
And this is where all these procedures, they've had those what's that phrase? Anyway, they've been able to make so many advancements. Yeah, cochlea, for people who have hearing issues in the last 20 years, probably 30 years or so, probably due a lot to this, right?
Well, yeah, the Fourier analysis shows up in a zillion different ways.
Yeah.
The main reason that we want to talk about it is because James has this way of taking keyword frequency, and turning it into an analysis of trends.
Yep. I'm basically being able to Now, I love this. I think I know where you might be going with this. There's something I like to do when I'm talking with someone who I think is a joke, and that is say, please don't, and then communicate what I know they're going to do immediately after that, so that they then, and then predictably they do it. And then all I have to say is, now that you've done all the things I already said you were going to do and asked you not to, can you please respond to the one question I asked you? And for anyone who comes across and sees that, they don't want to look like that. And so, or at least I would hope not. And so the hope is that it's that you do that for the one that you cannot see who's going to come across it. And then they're like, damn, I don't want to look like that. Maybe I should change my methodology. And so.
That's interference, which is a different type of wave phenomenon.
Oh, cool.
You and I talked a long time ago about superposition of waves. Do you remember that wave?
Oh yeah. In fact, that's the word I was looking for the other night when I couldn't figure out what is it. Super. Yeah. Anyway.
Superposition. What it means is that waves made of the same stuff add up, and Fourier analysis comes from this particular odd result, which is that you can make any waveform you want with enough other waves.
The universe is a mustard seed. That's interesting.
People talk about an atom has all of the information in the universe in it, and that sort of angular wave information can be packed in because of the way these Fourier transforms work. Like it's kind of a crazy little dynamic of the way the universe is built. Just like we can create sounds from a complicated enough collection of any other sound. Let me tell you what I mean by that. If I have a B flat and then I have a really high note and I combine them, I get like this vibrato note, right?
Yeah.
And by the way, if anybody who wants to play around with this, you can do modular audio and go start learning all sorts of things about the way sound combine. And this idea of superposition is why these modular audio things work so well. And you can just like cram more information into a signal and make it more interesting and bring things out that no one's ever heard before.
Yeah.
Because
Tom Morello. Tom Morello is one of my favorite guitarists of all time. I used to say he could make the guitar talk. I got to see him live with Audio Slave. They played some Rage songs.
Like Peter Frampton.
Yeah. Yeah.
So have you ever heard of epicycles?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about them, but give me a refresher.
Well, like, for example, Mars, during its travels across the stars over the course of a few nights, will sometimes go backwards for a while. And we call it retrograde motion. Most of the things in the sky go from west to east. And then you're like, no, wait a second, it goes from east to west. Yeah, the rotation of the Earth makes everything look like it's going east to west. But if you watch the motion of the moon and the sun and the other planets against the stars, they're always going the opposite way.
Interesting.
Except that sometimes they change directions for a little while. So it's called retrograde motion. And Ptolemy was the guy who said, well, that's because there's the sun at the center of the universe. I know what you're thinking. He's great. He actually talked about the geocentric world. And what he said was, there's these circles, and I'm going to draw red for Mars. As Mars goes around, that's fine, except there's these other little circles that are also going around. So retrograde motion happens during this little section here. Because Mars is actually like, on this circle here, right?
Yeah.
So there's this orbit, and then there's this epicycle, like this extra cycle, this abstract cycle. All right, well, here's the problem. We can think of this as a low frequency wave, and this thing is a high frequency wave. And so instead of having the normal motion of Mars like this, we end up with motions like this.
Ah, I see. Yeah.
All right, well, it turns out that if you combine enough epicycles, you can create any shape you want. And I think I showed you that.
Homer Simpson.
The Homer, yeah, and I'll put a link to that in there, or we can put a link to that.
The Homer Simpson orbit. That's just beautiful. Yeah, now it's all coming back to me like I'm Celine Dion. That's awesome.
Well, anyway, that's what I was getting at. If you have enough epicycles, you can make any shape you want, which is why Ptolemy's theory sucks, because it can't be falsified. But from the point of view of an audio synthesizer, we completely lean upon that. Audio synthesis is also as flexible. We can take any sound we want, and by combining enough of them, we can make it into any other sound.
Yeah, that's awesome.
We can take a bunch of tuba notes. We can put a bunch of tubas onto a keyboard, a MIDI keyboard, and if you play right, you'll get a whole different thing. In fact, if you want to look up, and I'll make a link to this too, there's these guys that do MIDI samples on a keyboard, and then by doing it complicated enough, they turn it into a voice synthesis.
Oh, yeah.
Have you seen that?
But definitely link that for sure, yeah.
And it's the exact same idea. If you have a complicated enough pile of different frequencies, it doesn't matter what the shape of the wave is, you can make any other shape.
Nice.
And that's kind of the main thing with Fourier analysis and Fourier transforms.
Well, and on to that, because this could be a nice play into when on the keyword and trends, you're going to do a troll hunt, right? How's this? Yeah. How does this apply to trolls, if at all?
Well, it's and when we talk about doing the hunt, we're going to prove that word frequency analysis can be used as a wave, basically. That's like a fingerprint for individual authors.
You know, the first wave, I mean, at least I don't know how, well, I do, but information wave is thought to be the first wave for universal creation. So you're kind of talking about figuring out similar, using like the information wave based on all these keywords, right?
Yes.
That's awesome.
And of course, the idea is because keywords show up as a bell curve, these multiple bell curves can be analyzed and built up into trends based on those combinations. I don't know all the details. James is the one who's been playing around with this and doing mathematical analyses, making predictions with it, and then judging those predictions again using mathematical analysis so he can judge his margin of error. But it kind of leans on this basic idea, which is why I wanted to introduce it first.
That's awesome. I can't wait to check that out. The first now, you guys, basically, we were talking about doing a troll hunt. You're going to be doing one right here soon. Was it you and Mandy, or who's going to do the troll hunt?
I have no idea. I got to get my OBS working.
Oh, that's right. Shoot, sorry, didn't mean to put you on the spot.
The first thing will be to prove that it's viable. We'll show that you can use these keywords with individuals to identify common.
Nice. So yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I'll be now James. We're hoping to have him on to kind of go over this too, right?
Well, and that was one of the things I want to do was cover this so that when he comes on, we're not starting from just nothing.
Yep, perfect.
The Fourier transform, and there's Fourier transforms, there's Fourier analysis, there's Fourier integrals, there's Fourier series, where we're talking about combining piles of waves. We talk about a series of frequencies added up together with different sizes. So the name Fourier comes from this guy. I don't even know his first name. He's obviously French. But yeah, all these different mathematical and physics ideas come from his crazy insight that the shape of a wave can be converted into a power spectrum, and the power spectrum, with the exact same maneuver, gets turned back into the wave. That's the crazy thing. When you do a Fourier integral on that wave, that turns into a power spectrum. When you do another Fourier integral on that power spectrum, you get the wave back.
That's not, yeah.
It's beautiful. It's perfectly symmetrical.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons we trust it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm excited about this. We were doing a lot of math earlier, and then I have very bad attention span. So this is getting me invigorated for some more mathematical lessons, because this is fun. I'm looking forward to this.
So I'll scare up some links so you can put those down below. so we have a little bit of a reference for all those things, right?
Yep, sounds good. And then we'll connect. And I guess I don't want to jump the gun. I was kind of interpreting you to okay, and maybe I interpreted you right. Was that what you wanted to cover on Fourier analysis, or did I jump the gun there?
No, this is. I just wanted to get the words out there.
All right,
literally unpacking it. That was the whole idea.
Nice. So yeah, we'll connect and figure out another good discussion. I want to jump on, continue on the immoral revolution and get into the redneck. What was it called? The Southern rednecks, or no? Say it one more time.
The redneck moral system.
Yeah.
And it's an idea I got from Thomas Sowell. The guy's a genius. It was really insightful. This moral system for marginal people can be traced back to Ulster County in Scotland.
Oh man, yeah. So that we'll have to jump right into that part of it here. You want to do one here midweek or something like that? Hopefully,
we can fold that in with Paul because that's kind of
that'll be perfect
on the same thing. Right?
That'll be perfect. Yeah, we'll do a Paul and kind of lead in right with that. So sounds good, man. Appreciate it. And what's that?
I said I appreciate it. It'll be fun.
Yep. Sounds good. Y'all have a good night. Appreciate everyone who checked it out.
Yep. Thanks for coming by, everybody. Take care, Mac.
Yep. Later. Bye. You too.